Incredible secrets revealed. How a maid's touch saved a billionaire from an unexpected threat. Maria Ramirez stood in the grand, cold foyer of the Reynolds mansion, a silk scarf languishing carelessly on the marble floor, her heart heavy with anticipation. Days of scrubbing and tidying had led to a relentless crescendo of worry, tying her stomach in knots. What began as another night of cleaning had spiraled into a night filled with secrets destined to emerge from the shadows. The kitchen, a sanctuary of potential, echoed her dreams of culinary glory, yet her responsibility smothered the flame. With her mother's health deteriorating and bills piling, the thought of fully embracing her ambition felt impossibly fragile. During the day, the diner's bustling atmosphere couldn't drown out her internal monologue. The regulars knew her well, but their familiar faces only reminded her of the life she longed for, the one slipping further from her grasp. One false move could shatter the balance. Yet nightfall transformed her into a mere silhouette, cleansing every inch of Jack's penthouse sanctuary while he sulked behind glass walls. She felt the loneliness creeping through every corner. It echoed Jack's own. Opposite worlds, locked by duty and the gripping fear of failure. Slicing vegetables at the diner that morning, she replayed the recent events over and over. Jack, in all his brilliance, seemed weighed down by a burden he could not articulate. She'd often seen him standing in his vast library, fingers running successively through his hair, staring down at gleaming screens like an artist staring at a blank canvas. What secrets lay behind the soul of a genius? A sanctum of innovation had become a prison of scrutiny. He needed saving, not only from the looming product launch, but from the very betrayal that simmered close by. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. But tonight, confoundingly, she had stumbled upon more than dust bunnies and the edges of Jack's uncertainty. Their shadows merging with the darker corners of ethics. A conversation she hadn't meant to overhear had sent her into a spiral. Victor, the predatory business partner, revealing cowardly schemes, plotting to undermine Jack for his own gain, right in her presence. It was too close, too personal.
Torn between the desperate need for a steady income and the ethical dilemma pulsating through her veins, the decision felt lethal. Remaining silent was a death knell to Jack's career, yet exposing the truth felt like a betrayal of her income. She took a deep breath, the air heavy with despair, as her world rumbled beneath her. What if sharing this information put her mother at risk? To be cut off from that job would jeopardize everything. Yet, as she returned to sweeping an already impeccable room, indecision gripped her mind, fingers trembling against the golden frames. Would anyone believe her? Would revealing the lies only escalate the tension? The walls closed in around her. The line between personal ambition and moral obligation blurred beyond recognition, leaving only echoes of a twilight mansion and the potential unraveling of both their futures. Desperation thrummed like a heartbeat as she searched for courage in the dimly lit hall, strained with the weight of unspoken truths lingering in the silence. Maria stood frozen, the broom still in hand, her mind racing through the tighter implications of her overheard secret. Victor's tone had been precise, calculated. He didn't just want to shake Jack's empire, he aimed to destroy it. The words echoed in her mind, a grim reminder of the weight she now carried. Each stroke of the broom seemed to scrape away at her resolve, revealing fresh layers of fear entangled with possibility. Compelled by a need that surged beyond her hesitation, she paced the marble floor, thoughts colliding with each step, spiraling into the chaotic dance of potential outcomes. The clandestine information was a weapon, and in her intimate connection with the crumbling integrity of the Reynolds empire, it could either be her lifeline or her downfall. What did it mean for her to step beyond the designated role of a maid? Would she have the courage to confront Victor, or would she retreat into the shadows of her self-doubt? She couldn't shake the vision of Jack, his weary eyes, the vulnerable way he oftentimes held himself, believing them invincible yet barely clinging to that illusion. He was on the precipice of failure, and she had the one piece of evidence that could change everything. Yet at what cost? She closed her eyes, reminding herself of her mother's fragile health. The thought gripped her, threatening to suffocate her spirit. To tell Jack could mean losing everything she had fought so hard for. Maria let the broom settle against the wall and sank onto the plush rug, her heart racing as she clutched the fibers.
The deeper she delved into the ethical maze surrounding Jack and Victor's entangled fates, the more she realized it wasn't merely about choosing sides, but about grappling with her own moral convictions. Crying out for her to choose a world beyond mere survival, her ambition for culinary greatness seeped into her veins, urging her to claim her place in the chaos.
What if this was the very moment she needed to embrace possibility? What if aligning herself with Jack could ignite the spark she needed to propel her out of this cycle of fear? She visualized the kitchen, its stainless steel shining under the glow of excitement, commercial opportunities dancing before her eyes. Maybe saving Jack wasn't just a noble act. It could pave a path to her own escape from the weight bearing down on her. Standing up, determination coursing through her, she felt the chill of the marble against her bare feet and forced herself to consider her options. A confrontation was inevitable. The risk of inaction loomed larger than her fear. She had merely to decide when and how she would break this delicate illusion of ignorance. Suddenly, a noise disrupted her reverie, a soft yet distinct rustling from the library. Stepping closer to the door, she could hear rapid footsteps. Jack's voice sounded terse, his frustration palpable. "Victor, you need to understand that trust is not a currency to be gambled with," Jack's voice echoed as she pressed her ear against the cool wood. The conversation was veering into dangerous territory, and she could hear Victor's insidious charm bouncing off Jack's guarded defenses. Compelled, Maria pushed the door open. The risk of hearing more was overshadowed by the urgency of the present moment. She stood there, cloaked in the shadows, a witness to the precarious clash of loyalty and ambition. What would she decide in this pivotal moment? Did she dare step into the light and unravel the deception that ensnared them both, or would she retreat back into silence, letting fate decide for her? Each heartbeat thudded in her ears as she weighed her options. The truth loomed large before her. The time had come to face the consequences. The charged air around Maria seemed to thicken as she lingered in the doorway, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The conversation unfolded before her. Jack's desperation and Victor's disarming calm were side by side, colliding like tectonic plates ready to quake. "I have built this empire on vision and trust, Victor." Jack's voice broke slightly, revealing an underlying vulnerability that struck a chord deep within her. "If you can't honor that, then what's left? Just a pile of bricks?" Her instincts screamed at her to step back, to retreat into the shadows, but a fierce resolve ignited within her. She sought her voice, not as a maid, but as a person with agency. Uncertainty gripped her. She longed to share what she had overheard, to plant the seed of truth that could save him. Yet the echoed words of Victor filled her mind, insidious, calculated. "Jack, sometimes bricks need to be moved to create better foundations," Victor replied, his tone silky smooth, a manipulation draped in the guise of reason. "Why foster loyalty when I can offer you something far greater? Power, control, power." The words sent a shiver through her, igniting her ambition even as it twisted something colder inside her. Maria squeezed her eyes shut for a brief moment. The glittering possibility of a culinary career danced before her, vibrant and tempting, yet marred by this moment of indecision. Could she really break her silence? Did she truly want to let the truth set them all free? Or was this her opportunity to elevate herself from the underbelly of the Reynolds empire? Taking a deep breath, she allowed herself to think of her mother once more, fragile yet remarkable, a woman who fought for her life every single day, with resilience Maria aimed to emulate. This was her moment to harness that spirit. Slipping into the library, she showed herself, stepping from the shadows into the dim light, where two powerful men faced off. Jack's eyes widened momentarily. Shock coursed through his frame as he absorbed her presence. Victor turned with an air of amusement, the corners of his mouth curving into a predatory smile. "What's this?" Victor spoke first, the gleam in his eyes marking her as an intruder, an unsought complication to his masterful plan. "Maria?" Jack's tone held a mixture of surprise and concern. "You shouldn't be here." "No," the word burst from her before she could even fully comprehend it. "I need to be here. I need to tell you what I overheard." The weight of her decision bore down on her even more heavily than before. Jack looked between her and Victor, a flicker of uncertainty clouding his features, as if she had just shattered the fragile equilibrium of power. "What are you talking about?" His voice, though steady, quivered at its edges. "It's Victor. He's planning something dangerous for you and everything you've worked for." The confession tumbled out,
raw and unpolished as the reality sat bare before them. Victor's expression darkened, as if a shadow was draping over his charming facade. He sidestepped, attempting to control the room with a casualness that belied the tension. "Why would you risk stepping into the fray? You're just a maid, Maria." The reminder of her place, a mere maid, stung fiercely. Yet in that moment, Maria felt a surge of empowerment. "I might be a maid, Victor, but I see. I understand what's at stake here. Can't you see?" Jack's eyes held hers, urgency weaving through the unspoken connection that had grown between them over the years of shared meals and unseen glances. In that instant, she felt the fragile threads of her identity stretching, ready to evolve into something stronger. But would they have time to dismantle Victor's plan? Would the truth rally their resolve against the quiet storm brewing within the Reynolds empire? As Maria settled herself in the moment, a burgeoning sense of purpose melded with a dread for what lay ahead. She would not retreat. Instead, she would face whatever consequences awaited. Her voice, previously constrained, now held the power to change everything.
"Together we can fight this," she proclaimed, steeling herself for whatever backlash would follow. The tension hung in the air like a cord plucked, vibrating with the possibilities of change. What lay ahead would test not just her ambitions, but the fragile loyalty binding her to the men before her. Would they unite to confront Victor, or was Maria's newfound courage merely igniting a powder keg of betrayal? Maria's heart raced as she stood in the dim light of the library, aware that every second counted. Jack's expression, caught between disbelief and betrayal, mirrored her own internal conflict. She had crossed the threshold from being an unnoticed part of this world to standing at its epicenter, and she couldn't afford to falter. "Maria, we don't know what Victor will do now that you've spoken," Jack uttered, fear lacing his tone, but there was a flicker of something else, trust. "I'm aware of the stakes, Jack," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Each syllable ignited an unaccustomed fire within her. "But we can't sit by and let him maneuver you like a pawn on his chessboard. Your vision isn't meant to crumble. It's meant to build. Together, let's outsmart him." Victor chuckled, his mocking laughter reverberating around the library like a dark echo. "A heartwarming sentiment, Maria, but you're overestimating your influence here. Jack's empire isn't built on mere emotions. It's built on unyielding strategy." "You're wrong," she shot back, her words sharper than she expected. "It's built on trust. You've twisted it into manipulation, and that's what will lead to its downfall." Jack turned his gaze to Victor, confusion mingling with determination. "Is it true? Have you been using my ambitions to fuel your own?" Victor's cool smile didn't waver. "I merely guide you towards realities. Power and control are the true currency. Emotions are liabilities." He was careful, yet Maria sensed cracks beginning to form in his facade, the self-assuredness softening as the stakes were laid bare. Maria stepped closer to Jack, her arm brushing against his, an unspoken promise of solidarity. "We can provide something Victor doesn't understand, authentic leadership grounded in respect and honesty. We've seen what he does, Jack. We can rewrite this narrative." Taking a deep breath, Jack nodded, allowing the tension to settle over them like a mantle of newfound resolve. "All right, we need a plan to expose Victor while securing my position without leaving room for retaliation." A moment of stillness enveloped the room, their hearts beating as one toward a shared understanding. This was no longer merely Jack's empire, but a collective vision forged through trust and resilience. Maria felt raw energy swell within her, igniting thoughts of culinary experiences once viewed as mere fantasies, dreams she could now reshape into action. "What assets can we leverage against him?" she asked, her mind racing through the complexities ahead. "We have access to more than he might expect. I know the rhythms of this household, its vulnerabilities." Jack's gaze sharpened. "You're absolutely right. Your knowledge extends beyond what Victor could possibly conceive. You see the intricacies that escape even those entrenched in this world." Victor's eyes narrowed. "You think you can disrupt my plans? You're a naive girl cloaked in ill-conceived bravado. I've been orchestrating this for years." Maria held her ground, emboldened as determination pulsed through her. "And I've been listening, Victor, collecting insights you've overlooked. Underestimating us could prove to be your greatest error." As her heartbeat synchronized with Jack's resolve, Maria recognized the transformative journey ahead. The fragile threads of her identity were not merely stretched, they were knitting into something formidable. But even as hope stretched its limbs, uncertainty prickled at the edge of her consciousness. How deep did Victor's malevolence reach? Was he truly as calculated as he appeared, or was this a facade? They would need to tread carefully, strategizing while keeping their vulnerabilities hidden. "Tonight," Jack said quietly but firmly, breaking the tension, "we'll gather evidence against him, document his manipulations, speak to key stakeholders who have been misled. We'll do this right." Yet even as determination surged, a dark thought lingered. Would they truly be able to take down Victor without losing themselves in the process? With a surge of resolve, Maria nodded. "Let's make sure that when this is all over, we create a foundation built on something far more resilient than power: integrity." The stakes were higher than ever, and Maria's transformation into an agent of change was underway. But the path ahead was fraught with unseen perils. Would her newfound courage be enough to dismantle Victor's empire before he struck back? As they stepped towards a tentative alliance, the truth sat heavily in the air. In the world of power and ambition, trust could just as easily yield loyalty or treachery. The shadows flickered in the library, casting uncertain reflections on Maria's resolve. Each decision now felt loaded, a weapon of choice in a battle she had not fully prepared for. In that moment, the gravity of her role sank deep within her. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was pivotal in determining the fate of Jack, and perhaps even her own future. Jack moved towards the laden desk, spreading out papers that revealed Victor's dealings, plans that twisted reality, just as he twisted people. Maria's breath caught. The evidence was physically there, yet her stomach churned, knowing they had to outmaneuver Victor without tipping their hand. This would demand precision and a new level of cunning she had yet to develop. "Start with your contacts, the ones who believe in you," Jack suggested, breaking through her haze. "We need allies who will stand with us publicly and privately."
"Yes, but trust is fragile," Maria replied, instincts kicking in. "We need to approach them carefully. Any sign of disloyalty could lead Victor right to us. But first, we must present ourselves as united, a force he can't break apart." A strategic plan unfurled in her mind, yet doubt whispered like a ghost at the edges. Could she balance this thin line? Maria had to believe in her capability. Thoughts of her culinary aspirations surged back to her. The way ingredients blended harmoniously reflected the balance she now needed to create in her life. Her past lessons in the kitchen could guide her here, too. As they began mapping their strategy, Maria's imagination sparked with possible alliances. Her past experience in hospitality gave her insight into the personality types they might approach. She noted Janelle, a sharp marketing executive whose loyalty had always remained with Jack, and Peter, an analyst who harbored suspicions of Victor's methods. It was a start, but Maria's confidence wavered. What if they weren't enough? "Janelle and Peter might not stand with us if they sense weakness," she said, her brow furrowing in concentration. "We can't show any fear. We need to embody the change we want to create." Jack nodded, understanding the blend of resolve and anxiety in her words. "Then we portray strength. We lead with transparency, the very thing Victor capitalizes on. We need to root this revolution in integrity." Every word she exchanged with Jack deepened her resolve, but it also added to her fears. The realities of being under Victor's scrutiny were pressing upon her. A chilling thought surfaced. What if they failed? The repercussions wouldn't just shatter Jack's aspirations, they would reverberate through her life, returning her to the shadows from which she longed to emerge. "Maria, we must be prepared to move quickly," Jack urged, a hint of urgency in his tone. "Tomorrow, I plan to call a meeting with the stakeholders. We'll need clarity in our narrative, something solid to stand upon." The weight of their endeavor bore down more heavily. "Right," she said, her voice gaining strength. "We need to rehearse our pitch, to not just present facts, but to inspire. If we evoke conviction, they'll want to fight with us, not just for Jack's vision, but for their own." Jack's eyes widened with a mix of admiration and anticipation. "You're seeing the bigger picture, Maria. With your instincts, we can reshuffle this entire board." Her heart swelled, and for the first time she recognized the power of her voice, how it could barge through the silence and create transformations. Yet an anxious murmur clawed at her confidence. Were they truly ready to challenge a man as formidable as Victor? The risk of failure echoed ominously in her mind. As they pooled their thoughts, Maria felt a resolve crystallize, tension morphing into determination. She mentally categorized her skills. She would not only support Jack, but also stand on her own merits in this battle.
The clock pressed on, minutes vanishing like cargo lost at sea. "Let's put together a timeline," she proposed. "We'll need to get everything lined up. Every detail matters." Jack agreed, his face shifting to fierce concentration. As they outlined the next steps, the library became a war room, each decision a weapon against Victor's strategy. At that moment, determination blazed in Maria.
This was their war for integrity. But in the very depths of her excitement lay a piercing fear. They had awakened a dangerous predator. Would Victor retaliate? And if so, how deeply would he strike? As they delved into specifics, the question loomed larger. In facing Victor, would the truth stand firm, or would it fracture under the weight of hidden agendas? The truth would only emerge as they prepared for battle. The time had come to face the unveiling storm. The library felt stifling, the air thick with tension as Maria and Jack immersed themselves in preparations. Every unturned stone could harbor a disaster, and Maria felt the weight of responsibility curl like a serpent around her throat. This wasn't just about Jack anymore. It was profoundly personal. The fear of slipping back into a life overshadowed by conformity loomed larger than ever. "Let's prioritize," Jack said, dragging Maria's attention back from her spiraling thoughts. "What's the core message we want to convey to our allies?" She flipped through the pages before her, searching for clarity amid the chaos. Integrity, transparency, resilience. If we convey how crucial this decision is, not just for us, but for them, it'll resonate. Jack smiled, the warmth breaking through the tension, but Maria felt a storm brew within. "And how do we make them believe in us?" she questioned, an edge to her tone. "What if they don't see the true value we bring?" Jack leaned closer, encouraging her to express her internal conflict. "This is where your insights come in. You understand people better than anyone I know. Use that." She considered her culinary background, the art of understanding flavors and how they played off each other. Perhaps that knowledge could translate here. Each person was an ingredient in this precarious recipe for rebellion. But as she scanned the notes, doubts crept back in. Would her approach be enough? Was she prepared to confront the intricacies of manipulating a volatile environment? "Each person we talk to must feel like they matter," she declared. "Their involvement can't just be an afterthought. It has to be personal, something they care about deeply." Vulnerability laced her voice, an admission of her own insecurities. Maria took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. "Jack, we also need to anticipate what Victor might do next. He's unpredictable and ruthless. We have to stay one step ahead." Jack nodded, a grim determination carved into his expression. "I'll analyze his past moves, but it might be better to think outside the box."
We could stage a distraction, something that pulls him away from our real intentions. The thought tickled at the edges of her mind. A distraction, yes, but what kind? This was where creativity could prove pivotal. Maria could hear the clock ticking, each second laden with urgency. We could turn a rumor about a major milestone in the company, make it seem like a diversion worth his attention. Jack's eyes twinkled with intrigue. "That's brilliant! If we can pull it off, we'll have time to solidify our alliances without him meddling." But the thrill of brainstorming ideas faded quickly as the stakes settled heavily within her. What if they resorted to tactics that crossed ethical lines? Maria grappled with the thought. The quest for integrity was leading her down a path riddled with moral dilemmas. Her growing conviction fought against the voices gnawing at her conscience. Could she condone deception, even for the greater good? The unease built on her chest as they discussed potential alliances and strategized. She needed allies who understood the gravity of their mission and trusted her intentions. Realizing the gap between her ideals and her actions hit hard, transforming her internal debate into a cacophony of frustration. Memories crept in, the scented elegance of her kitchen overweighed by the bitter acknowledgement of shortcuts she sometimes took in her cooking. Was she doing the same in this battle? The realization gnawed. With Jack by her side, she was unraveling a more profound sense of self, thrusting her emotions to the forefront of every action. As they jotted down plans, a whisper of fear lurked in the shadows, the very personification of Victor waiting to strike. Time slipped through their fingers, and Maria could sense victory slipping away with each passing moment. "Jack," she said, her voice steady but softening, "what happens when Victor finds out? He'll retaliate. We must be prepared." Jack leaned back, considering her words. "Then we prepare our defense now. We must be ready for anything." In that moment, Maria recognized the first flickers of resolve inside her, strength she wasn't sure she possessed. The next course of action not only determined their future, it redefined who she was and who she could become. The challenge stretched ahead like an untraveled road, and with it came the profound question burning deep within her. Would she sacrifice her ideals for the sake of their fight, or could she forge a path that upheld her integrity, even against Victor's ruthless tactics? As the library door creaked open, a figure lingered in the entrance, a looming silhouette that could very well alter their fate in this increasingly treacherous game. Would help or betrayal accompany this new arrival? The figure in the doorway came into focus, a familiar silhouette cutting through the oppressive atmosphere of the library.
Maria's heart raced, lurching between hope and dread.
It was Naomi, her former mentor, whose guidance had once shaped her culinary journey. Naomi stepped inside, her presence commanding yet nurturing, immediately shifting the dynamic. "Maria," she greeted, the warmth of her voice flickering like a candle in the dim room. "I heard whispers of trouble. Is it true?" Maria's throat tightened. Yes, it was true. Trouble was whirling around them like a storm, but how much could she reveal without adding to the burden of her own fears? "We're handling things, Naomi. Jack and I are strategizing." Her words tasted bitter, chafing against the vulnerability she felt within. Would the strategies matter if they swung too far from ethical boundaries? Naomi glanced between them, sensing the weight of unspoken thoughts. "You know I trust your judgment, but I can help you navigate this. You've faced challenges before, Maria, remember? We cooked our way through adversity." The reminder sent a surge of nostalgia through her. In the kitchen, every challenge could be tackled with the right mix of ingredients and techniques. But this was different. Politics weren't boiled or baked. They were volatile, unpredictable. "Naomi, it's not just about cooking," Maria said, her tone stern yet uncertain. "This is about integrity versus survival, and I'm questioning everything I believe in." Naomi's expression softened, understanding unfolding. Every chef faces a moment when the heat turns up. You need to decide which recipe you want to follow. Do you let the pressure push you into shortcuts, or create the masterpiece you envision? Maria swallowed hard, burdened by the analogy. Was she willing to compromise her values in a risky pursuit? The question ricocheted in her mind, intertwining with her growing desperation. Her clear vision was crumbling, replaced with the shadow of Victor's looming threat. Jack had been silently absorbing the exchange, now leaning towards Maria with an encouraging expression. "What if we harness the chaos, use it as fuel instead of fear? We have the chance to articulate a powerful narrative, one that exposes Victor's tactics while showcasing our integrity." Maria inhaled sharply, a flicker of inspiration igniting. "If we expose his actions, doesn't that make us the heroes reclaiming lost integrity?" The thought galvanized her, the moral path blending with their strategic need. Could they become the voice of reason amid the deception? Naomi nodded, pride evident in her gaze. "It's about making the right choice with the right narrative. Your influence could rally others, turn their perception. They'll want to stand with you, not against." But a sliver of doubt threaded through her excitement. Maria couldn't shake the anxiety that accompanied every step forward. Was she ready to unleash her truth while questioning her methods? What if it backfires? What if our exposure leads to something worse? "We cannot predict the outcome," Naomi replied, unwavering. "What we can control is our intention." Act with integrity, and the right allies will see the truth. Feeling the tension in the room shift, Maria grabbed the notebook and began jotting down ideas, a counter-narrative, strategies to build alliances based on unshakable truths rather than manipulation. It was daunting yet exhilarating, highlighting her resolve to pave a path through the murky waters she had feared. As she scribbled, determination coursed through her veins. The more she wrote, the clearer her vision became. It was time to lean into her strengths. She wasn't just a chef anymore. She was an architect of change. But beneath the surge of empowerment, unease crept higher. What if Victor's response meant confronting him personally, the inevitable unraveling of everything she had fought to rebuild? The clock ticking relentlessly on the wall stressed the time they had left. The looming presence of Victor overshadowed her confidence, waiting for any sign of weakness. With renewed purpose, Maria rose from the table. "Let's make it known who we are and what we stand for. Not today, not ever will we back down." As they prepared to unfold their strategy, a vibrating alert on Jack's phone cut through the tension. The message was short but sharp. Victor was making his move. Maria's heart dropped. This wasn't just strategizing anymore. It was a declaration of war. Would they be ready to face the consequences of the truth they were about to wield, or would it lead to their undoing? With the stakes rising, she felt the shadows encroaching on their fledgling plan. The battle had truly begun, and she wondered if bravery could quell the impending storm. Would they emerge victorious, or would the weight of betrayal crush them once again? Maria's pulse drummed at her ears, matching the sporadic vibrations from Jack's phone that seemed to shatter the fragile calm. Victor's looming specter felt even more real now, a malevolent force that could unravel the fragile threads of their resolve. "What did he say?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. Jack held up the phone, eyes narrowed as he read. "A meeting. Tomorrow. He wants to discuss everything." Jack's tone was clipped,
the weight of uncertainty hanging heavily around them. Maria felt the floor shift under her feet. A meeting could offer a chance for confrontation or moral quagmire, yet sitting in the shadows while Victor orchestrated his plans was not an option. "We can't allow him to dictate the terms," she muttered, firming her grip on the notebook. "We need to be prepared for anything." "Anything?" Jack echoed. "We're up against one of the most powerful players in the industry." Maria shot him a look that was half determination, half fear. "Exactly, which is why we need to turn his tactics against him. If we come unprepared, he'll win without even trying." The room felt heavy with the pressure of their situation. The walls seemed to press in, blocking her thoughts, but then she recalled Naomi's words from earlier.
Integrity. Vision. The meal may be at stake, but the recipe was still in her hands. "Let's dissect every angle," Maria said, pacing the dimly lit room as thoughts flowed. "What vulnerabilities does he have? Every empire has cracks. We just need to find them." Jack nodded, his expression shifting from anxiety to focus. "Maybe it's not just about Victor, but the people who are afraid of him. We need to show them that we're not powerless." With each step, Maria's mind began to flourish with ideas. She mused out loud about the culinary landscape she knew so well, the beauty of fusion, blending genres to create something unique. What if they used the same principles in their strategy, merging narratives to showcase Victor's overreach while spotlighting their own mission of integrity? "What if we create a conversation around his tactics?" Maria proposed, a spark igniting in her eyes. "We can frame their choices, the dish of morality served against his unprincipled policies. Make the truth palatable." Jack's brow furrowed as he turned the idea over. "That could pivot the narrative in our favor. It reframes the discussion, essentially repositioning us as the righteous challengers instead of the underdogs cowering in corners. And we can use data, testimonials, the very dishes that showcase everything we represent, the freshness, the artistry, the ethics," she added eagerly. "Our reputation, it's our shield. The menu can be both our weapon and our defense." As they honed their plan, Maria felt a growing confidence swell within her. Here was an opportunity to reclaim her agency, to fight not just for herself, but for all those who had been bullied into silence by Victor's oppressive tactics. She was recalling every lesson learned in the kitchen, every time she transformed chaos into culinary artistry. But with every surge of determination came the lurking uncertainty. What if Victor retaliated with more than just words? The reality was raw, simmering beneath her bravado. She would be confronting years of manipulation and hostility. It wouldn't just be a debate. It could be a battle for survival. Just then, Naomi pushed open the door again, her presence a steady lighthouse in Maria's turbulent sea. "I have contacts who have worked with him. It's time I share that intelligence," she said, the firmness in her tone leaving no room for objections. "That makes sense. Your connections could give our strategy teeth," Maria replied, gazing at her mentor with a renewed sense of possibility. With each passing moment, she felt the transitions taking place, not just in her external circumstances, but deep within. She wasn't merely a chef, she was an agent of change, reclaiming her narrative against forces that previously felt insurmountable. But as they plotted their course with new resolve, a bone-deep fear gripped her. Victor's reach was extensive, and soon he might come for her in ways they couldn't anticipate. The door creaked open again, and they all turned toward it, tension electrifying the air. The confrontation was coming, and it could shift everything they had fought for, perhaps even alter her very essence as a leader and a chef. "Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow will test us all," Maria breathed, a poignant awareness settling in. This wasn't just about principle anymore. It was about who she was becoming, or who she might lose in the process. As light flickered through the open doorway, Maria felt the weight of what lay ahead, knowing an unsettling confrontation awaited. The time had come to step into the lion's den and embrace her truth. Would she stand tall, steadfast in her beliefs, or would the confrontation unearth the darker corners of her ambition? Morning broke like an egg, bright yet fragile, casting shadows that danced across Maria's anxious face. She lingered at the stove, her hands deftly slicing vegetables as she reflected on the weight of the day ahead. Each chop brought clarity, a rhythmic distraction that momentarily eased the tide of uncertainty crashing within her. But clarity was a double-edged sword. The meeting with Victor loomed large, casting a pall over her excitement for the dishes she intended to prepare. She glanced around the kitchen, where the scents of fresh herbs and spices melded together like her thoughts. Each aroma sparked a memory,
The lessons Naomi instilled, the late nights of experimentation, the relentless pursuit of excellence that coursed through her veins like a second heartbeat. Today, those lessons would coalesce into purpose. Victor's manipulation had stifled creativity. It was time to rise above, to transform that creativity into action. Beyond the kitchen walls, however, the specter of his presence awaited her. She gathered ingredients, envisioning how each could convey her message, a coded language that would tell both Victor and her audience not to underestimate her resolve. As she worked, Jack entered, his expression a mirror of her internal struggle. "You ready?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. The eagerness in his tone didn't quite mask the underlying tension. "Ready as I'll ever be," Maria replied, though her heartbeat quickened at the thought of facing Victor directly. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, and she hardly needed a clock to remind her of how quickly the hours were slipping away. Jack stepped closer, his brow furrowed. "We've considered everything Victor might throw at us, right? We can't let him draw us into his game." Maria nodded, though her mind raced with potential scenarios. Each plan she crafted felt like a fragile souffle. A slight tremor could send it crashing down. "We need to maintain our composure. If he senses any fear, he will exploit it." They finished preparing the dishes, their combined energies creating an air of productive urgency. With the flavors mingling and the clock ticking away, Maria felt a profound shift within herself.
She was evolving, stepping into an identity her former self might have deemed unattainable. She was not merely a chef, she was a strategist, an artist working with the very essence of integrity. Yet beneath the surface, shadows danced, a gnawing anxiety whispering doubts that threatened to drown out her growing confidence. What if Victor's tactics were more insidious than even she anticipated? What if his words turned sharper than knives, capable of slicing through her newfound resolve? Would her creativity stand firm, or would it fold under the weight of confrontation? Focus on the truth we're presenting, she reminded herself quietly, feeding off the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Integrity is our greatest asset. We will raise the dish of morality. As they loaded the assembled plates into their vehicle, Maria stole a glance at Jack, who clenched his jaw in anticipation. Here stood her ally, her partner, and the embodiment of their hope against Victor's tyranny. "Ready?" she asked, trying to stave off the heaviness that clung to her. He nodded, but the uncertainty in his eyes mirrored her own, an unsettling reflection of vulnerability. They were small figures on a grand stage, about to go head-to-head with a titan of the industry. With every mile that passed, as the buildings closed in and streets tightened, so did Maria's resolve. The transformation she had undergone in preparing for this moment became almost palpable. No longer just a naive chef in a big world, she was prepared to engage in a dance of wits with Victor, each step mapping the trajectory of her growth. As the meeting venue loomed closer, the air thick with tension and opportunity alike, a voice in her head echoed Naomi's reassurance that the essence of her work transcended the battle at hand. The truth was hers to express, and express it she would. But as they approached the entrance, the doors framing their impending confrontation, Maria felt a rippling in her resolve, a slight shift in the ground beneath her feet. Would Victor's grins of patronizing confidence unravel her newfound identity, expose her vulnerabilities, or would this moment cement her transformation forever? "Let's show him who we are," Jack said, his expression igniting a fire within her. Maria nodded, heart racing as she took the first step forward, about to confront her past and assert her future. Unbeknownst to her, the next moment could very well redefine the battle. Would they emerge victorious, or would the very foundations of her ambition start to crumble? The meeting room radiated a chilling formality, the walls filled with silent portraits of power and legacy. Maria entered alongside Jack, each step a declaration of her unwillingness to bow to the intimidating atmosphere. The initial scent of polished wood mixed with apprehension, but as she approached the imposing table, the reassurance in her heart flickered alive. This was her moment, the culmination of relentless preparation that had refined her into a formidable adversary. Victor, seated at one end of the table with an air of unchallenged authority, greeted them with a predatory smile. "Ah, Jack, Maria, how delightful of you to join me. I trust you're not here to play games, are you?" The casualness of his tone, laden with veiled threats, stirred the resolve within Maria. Not today. "We're here to talk about the truth," she stated firmly, lifting her chin to meet his gaze. No longer would she allow herself to cower under the weight of his perception. Jack stepped forward, ready to respond, yet Maria felt a surge that compelled her to interject. The truth about the tactics you've been using to undermine Jack's company. The words rolled off her tongue, clear and crisp, resonating with a strength that previously felt unattainable. Victor's expression faltered for a fraction of a second, quickly replaced by feigned surprise. Ambitious, aren't we? But you're merely a maid, Maria. This is above your pay grade. Her heart thundered in response, but she remained unwavering. And yet here I stand, informing you that the people in this company deserve better than to be caught in the crossfire of your manipulative schemes. The duality of pride and fear coalesced within her, fueling her transformation into a person who would not be easily dismissed. Jack nodded in approval, sensing the shift in Maria's demeanor. We've gathered evidence proving your underhanded dealings, Victor. You might have thought you were untouchable, but you've underestimated our resolve. The tension in the room crackled, thick with the unsaid. Victor's facade cracked, revealing a glimpse of the man unaccustomed to being challenged. What do you think you can accomplish with a few baseless accusations? His words punctured the air, but Maria felt an unseen power surging within her. We aren't just accusations, she countered. We're here to narrate a story that aims to elevate a company built on trust, integrity, and hard work. You are a risk to all of that. Her voice bore the weight of her journey, filled with an authenticity that permeated the cold air around them. Victor leaned back, a contemplative expression twisting across his face. Then he laughed, a low, derisive sound that bubbled up from somewhere dark. You think honesty and integrity actually wield power in this world. You're naive. Jack countered. Naivety is not synonymous with strength. Maria may be perceived as just a maid, but through her we've learned that the truth has a power of its own. We have garnered support from others, those who believe in a vision free from manipulation. Maria detected the gathering attention of those in the room, whose expressions shifted from indifference to consideration. It was opening, a crack in Victor's ironclad grip. What we offer is a chance to rebuild, she added, her voice steady and resolute, echoing the voice of countless dreams she had previously carried in silence. We can create a company rooted in values, a legacy that people respect and believe in. What if I were to destroy not just your plan, but everything you love? Victor challenged, his facade slipping as anger simmered beneath his words. Then you'd only reveal your lack of true power, Maria challenged back. Her heart raced as she felt the swell of her conviction rising to meet his malevolence, a fortress built on every lesson learned in and out of the kitchen. You would show that true strength lies not in coercion, but in the loyalty of those who believe in you, and that's something you have long forsaken. As the confrontation escalated, the stakes hung heavy in the air, the unfolding drama a mixture of desperation and resolve. Maria stood fortified alongside Jack, the power dynamics shifting in their favor as the realization of potential resonated deeper through the room. But Victor was seasoned in the game of power. Shadows of retaliation tugged at her thoughts. What would become of their mission if he struck back with more than words? The bravado in her voice masked a shiver of uncertainty, echoing the wishful thinking of her earlier plans. Yet another surge of authenticity washed over her, reminding her why she stood here. This wasn't merely about her place in the company. It was about claiming the aspirations she had muffled for far too long. The meeting reached an inflection point. The silence thickened as if waiting for the next move of a chess game stretched beyond the unyielding confines of the table. Eventually, Victor spoke, his voice now cooler, trying to regain the control that slipped from his grasp. Perhaps we can reach an agreement then, a compromise. Maria seized the moment, her confidence sharpening like the knives in her kitchen. Compromise can only occur on principles we can uphold together, Victor. It can no longer be the manipulation you've mastered. The foundation must be laid brick by brick upon loyalty and clarity. Jack turned to Maria, his expression a mixture of admiration and undeniable pride. She felt an expansion within herself, as though each word rippled outward and solidified her combination of ambition and purpose. We stand united, Victor, Jack added, stepping forward, mirroring Maria's energy. It's time to choose between the empire of deceit or begin anew, together. The tension suspended in the air, a chord vibrated between unresolved intention and shifting power. As Maria locked eyes with Victor, she stood firm, ready to combat whatever retaliatory tactics might follow. She recognized that they had reached a pivotal moment, not just for Jack's company, but for her journey of self-discovery. The choice lay not just with Victor, but also within herself, the decision to consistently confront doubts and embrace her burgeoning identity. No matter the outcome, this confrontation would mark a definitive step towards her personal evolution, an achievement brimming with promise. Do we redefine our paths or risk losing everything? Maria employed her voice, resonating strength through all her fears. In that moment of truth, it became clear. She had already conquered the most formidable adversary of all, herself. And as the fragile peace hung in the air, she felt an unshakable resolve. They would rise together, or fall trying, with integrity resonating in every choice they made. This was her moment, and despite the uncertainty ahead, it felt undeniably theirs to claim. If Jack and she emerged victorious from this seemingly insurmountable situation, it wouldn't merely denote survival, it would mark the birth of a new narrative, forever altering the course of their lives. And she knew that it was a story worth telling. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.